This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Pro Play Games case tournament that they held this past weekend. It was 55 players as you see here, and we do have this top 16 breakdown as we see as well. And if you guys want any of these deck lists, make sure to go to Eggman Events, where I put all of the events that I've been covering on that website, and pretty much more because I can't cover every event anymore, so make sure to check that out. And we do have the Digimon Regionals coming up this next weekend too, so make sure to be on the lookout for that. But for this event specifically, you will see immediately that there were a lot of BWGX on the top 16 here, taking a little bit over half with 9 of the top 16, and one of them taking the event too. 3 Hunters, and then we had ones of Red Hybrid, Ulforce, Black War Greymon, and Crossheart as well. So honestly, I think just these two new archetypes, BWGX and Hunter, have just been very, very strong out the gate. I think it does have a lot of interaction, and I do want to think like a lot of these top 16s that we see are a little bit influenced by the fact that a lot of people are running these decks, in my opinion. So because of that, it's hard for them to not top, if that makes sense. But I do agree that a lot of people are on a BWGX just because it's obviously I would not be I think it's easy to say it's probably the strongest deck in the format right now. It is not an easy deck to play, compared to, I'd say, other top tier decks that have been around, but it is definitely very strong. It's definitely a toolbox, and it has a lot of extension, a lot of configurability on what kind of decks or cards you want to run in your deck in general, and the security for this deck is very strong too. So anyways, we're going to talk about each one of these top placing archetypes, and we're just going to go right into BWGX, which I kind of talked a little bit about already, but there are a bunch of builds for this one, and I was saying, like, compared to something like Metal Guru X, right? That's like probably the previous top deck in the format, maybe Black War Grey X in the middle somewhere there, but just the fact that this is such a strong archetype in the sense that you get to be very there's just a lot of different choices you get to make for your lines. All of the deck lists that I made were pretty unique in the most part. I would say the decisions you got to make were what your level 6s are. So usually it's a 3-2-2 split between one of these BLZs and also then the X, and then 1 or 2 copies of Blast Mode, 3 or 4 copies of both the Rivals Barrages and the Ayamako. Those are usually decision points there. And then kind of I would say like this is the generic 3 rookies you run, 3 of each of the Impmons, including the Impmon X, and then also Wizardmon, Witchmon, Wizardmon X if you want to, and the Biomon as well. So there's a lot of variants for this. I think this is definitely a deck that you can make a lot of choices for, and additionally, like X Antibody I think is a good decision. Memory Boost is something that people decide to, and obviously there's just other Biomons, there's other, some people don't run Witchmon. There's just a lot of decisions for this in general. So anyways, this is Joseph's list. Congratulations for their first place finish on this one. And then moving along, we do have William with their second place Red Hybrid, and this is a deck I don't have a lot of experience with in this format specifically, but I do know it's on a lot of people's minds if it's good enough. We've seen Red Hybrid, and just Hybrid in general being a force, just the fact that tamers can get a lot of value for what you're doing, and it's easier to kind of go up your line since the destruction for these there's a little bit more around, but not as much as like if these are rookies that you had to digivolve on top of instead. So we do have like Pokemon to help you find your pieces and also make some of your Digivolutions cheaper in a lot of ways. And then kind of the new line, we have like the new Burning Greymon, which means you get to get the plus 2k, and you do get like the Tamer Recycle with the inheritable effects of like the Agunimon, and also like the Emperor Greymon that we have here as well. So this is kind of I don't think it's as much as like a punch and done a lot of the times, especially like this version doesn't run like an Omni at the top, but it does do a lot of damage, and sometimes it can be kind of hard to interact with, which is very strong. And I do like the add of the Gravity Crush to try to extend your turn if you're going in for the win. But in general, I think it's an interesting deck. It's hard to be consistent with this, I think, at sometimes, and like you do get around a lot of security stuff, which is prevalent, I think, sometimes in like the BLZX. But I in general too, I don't think there's a lot of decks with really strong security, because most decks don't. There's not as much like one punch OTK decks around, which again, this one isn't. It's kind of like a couple punches, but they are very strong at the same time. But anyway, there is Williams' list. Congratulations on their second place there. Next up, we have Nick with their 7th place Hunter. We're going to go over 2 Hunters list just because the 8th place list was, I think, pretty crazy. But this is more or less like the standard build for this deck in general. I'm pretty sure I've made like this list almost exactly with these ratios. The fact that you have a lot of rookies and the Psychomon and Gumdramon are probably the best one. Dracmon, just being able to get the additional cycle and draw if you really need it. Hikakumon at a couple copies, just at the potential to get rid of some of your opponent's Digimon with the -2k, which can stack really nicely with the Shoutmon King version, or the Omni Shoutmon to get rid of some of your opponent's cards. Domimon and King version being able to play your Tamers for free, and then also Arrestramon giving Rush, Arrestramon Superior Mode being able to get one of the best removal in the game, which is nice. And then you also do run the Astamon into the Quartzmon kind of stall, kind of control package if you really need to. And then you have the standard Tamers, 4 Taikis and 3 of each, the Yu, Toguro, and the Watchmaker as well. This is probably the most standard list I've ever seen for this deck, and I think that's okay. I know you're not going to see as much variance in the Hunter archetypes, especially since it's very specific on the specific cards and the ratios and stuff, as well as just the fact that there's aren't as many cards in these spots that you could be shuffling around with as much. So I do think this, if you want to get into playing this archetype, I think this is a really good build to as your first one. I also do want to mention that just because this deck is kind of understood, it is a little bit tricky to play. It's something really particular, but it's also something you can kind of make your own, which I think is really neat. And that's kind of like what I like about Crossheart too, is just the fact that sure, some of the archetypes look very similar, but just the fact that you get to play it your own style, which is kind of neat. So anyways, this is Nick's list, and then we also have Christian's list, which I do admit, like the picture that they sent was not 100% great. So my apologies if there's any errors on this one. I'll update it if there are. But they had a lot of interesting choice, a lot of 1s and 2s, and just some interesting stuff, especially like Tamers. So there's like the BT10U, which the only thing that this really does for an archetype like this, it has this all turns once per turn. When a purple Digimon is placed underneath this Tamer, you get to draw one and gain a memory. And I do like the idea of this card in this deck, especially since it's named U and it is purple. It does mean you do get to play it for free off your Domimon or your Shoutmon King version, as well as, it can be like a purple Tamer if you need that for like your Tamer color diversity for your Superior Mode, which is nice. It's also running like Death Xmon. It's running Calling for Darkness, which is interesting. Overflowing Power, which lets you Digivolve one of your Digimon into a Digimon save that's underneath one of your Tamers, so being able to get that recycle is kind of nice. I do like the Tuarmon as well, just being able to use this to, potentially Digivolve, which I think is still pretty strong in this game right now. And just kind of also just running like the regular Taiki, which finds Crossheart and reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 with Crossheart, trade among them to your hand, and place 1 Digimon with Crossheart, which I think is mostly just like the Shoutmon stuff. There might be a couple other cards with Crossheart that I'm not immediately seeing, but an interesting tech for this one too. I don't know if it's just to, find your other pieces, or because it does find, like, I believe this one also has Crossheart with it, so you can find that. But interesting list. I did want to mention it there. Congrats to Christian on their top 8 there. We have 3 more lists, including our 10th place Ulforce by Gabriel Sosa. And this is a pretty interesting list of the Ulforce as well. We've been seeing a lot of, I'd say, like the standard stuff with just running only the cards in the archetype, running Vmons, Aerovs, and everything else. But a couple new adds to it include the Blukomon, which is just one of the new security rookies. And by new, I mean, dang, we finally got the security rookies in this game. But being able to use it to draw 2 from security and then add it to your hand means you get a lot more cycle, which is kind of nice. We do have the Lanamon or Ranamon. Being able to be a hybrid and also get like inheritables that you'd kind of want in your stack is really nice too. And it has jamming, which is nice. I do like the Magdramon and also Lydramon in this build too, just because you do run a lot of Vmons, even though they're kind of like for the Ulforce line, they do work with both these cards. So being able to get some like board control with Lydramon, or being able to get like a blocker if needed for Magnamon, I think is great. Also, we do then have like the Aerovs and kind of the rest of the standard top end for this one. But I do like this also. So Great Maelstrom, when you would use this card by placing one of your blue Digimon at the bottom of one of your other, you get to reduce it by 3, so it costs 6, and then return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of its owner's deck. So being able to put an inheritable that you kind of need into one of your stacks can be helpful there, and just good removal as well. So I think this is an interesting list. I do like I'm a sucker for like the armor stuff, so I like to see that it did well for this one, and congratulations to Gabriel for their finish there. Next up, we have Hung Lee with their Black War Greymon X, and this is using the red base. I have talked about before, I think both the red and black base are viable. I think the red base is more straightforward in general, but I think it's in a still an okay spot. I think it's probably just better than the black base right now, especially since Greymon X antibody, you can't run more than one of these. If you could run more than one, I think the black base would be a little bit stronger, but I don't know, like the red base doesn't care as much because we still have the Greymon X antibody, and the only thing wrong with this one is that you can only digivolve this on top of red Agumons, not just the black ones, which is kind of rough there. But we do have like a good amount of cycle here. We do have like the Agumon X antibody. We also do have like this Greymon, which once per turn when attacking, you may play a tie with a cost of 3 or less from your hand with a paying its memory cost. So it's a nice little boost there too. So you could do something where you go into your Metal Greymon, and then you can raid. You know, when you raid, you can play the tie underneath it, which give you like plus 1,000 if needed, and like it's just like a bunch of little benefits from it too. So kind of a after the fact way to play the tie instead of like with the Greymon from BT12, and then just kind of the standard top end of Black War Greymon X, some Gaiomons, only one of the actual Black War Grey and the War Grey. I think people need to just play more of this Black War Greymon. Being able to get rid of tamers, especially like right now, since a lot of decks run tamers that cost 3, you can just delete two good tamers that your opponents were really hoping to have gotten and just get a lot of value from there. So I think if you want to be good in this form, I think Black War Grey needs to have, I think this card needs to be represented a little bit more, and only one Hades Force, so just really not prioritizing that tamer destruction, which I think is interesting. I do say like this, the package of this is maybe a little bit slow against specifically Beelzemon, just because it's better at setting that kind of up, and it's very fast and aggressive. So, but in general, I think that this could be, again, still very, very strong. Oh, this card's almost a year old, and it's still being played, which is great. So, general tamers that we like to see: Cool Boy, Tai, and also 2 Yuyas, 2 Red Memboosts, and some X antibodies, and a top end of Omni X as well. But I think Black War Greymon still is a really good spot. I think a lot of people cast it away for this meta after, still that BT11 Greymon X is at 1, but it still can do a lot of stuff. You just gotta be careful about it. It's just a little bit slower. That's the biggest thing. You just go up your line a little bit slower, not as consistently, but if you get up there, you still are able to kind of control the game in a lot of ways. So anyways, congrats to Hung on their finish there. And to wrap it on up, we do have Timmy Lee's 15th place Crossheart, and this is the Merva build. I haven't really seen a lot of the non-Merva builds do well, so more of the traditional Cross 7 builds and also like the Superior mode and stuff, but Merva is still a heck of a build for this deck in general. Just the fact that you're able to be so consistent with being able to find your pieces, how aggressive you're able to be. A lot of decks aren't running the Gazimons and other rookie memory blockers right now either, which means that you're really free to play these Gravity Crushes and Blinding Rays. And even if they were a little bit more present, the Darulumon is able to kind of interact with them and get them off the board too. So only 2 copies of Mervamon, which is, I normally see like closer to 3 for a deck like this, but this can just win you the game, get 3 cards with Rush, which is great. And then, Gravity Crush, Blinding Ray just helps you end out the game very, very consistently too. So not a lot about this one. This is pretty much still a BT 11 deck, but it's still very strong. And I don't think Crossheart's going anywhere either. It's so fast at times that your opponent really can't keep up with it a lot of times. But that is going to be my breakdown for us today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to check out PPG's website, which is linked in the description, as well as on the website too, for their future events, and make sure to check out for other future events on this channel as well. So again, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.